Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to this session, a very important session of UPSC 2021 strategy workshop. As you all of might know that UPSC strategy workshop is going on since last week, and this session is going to be specifically covering various topics about how to study science and technology. So to begin with, first of all, science and technology is going to be definitely of very much use, very much it is useful for civil services because it has various questions being asked in prelims as well as mains examination. So while we are going to be discussing about how different questions are asked in science and technology, we will be in this session, we will be looking at all the aspects of science and technology, that is for both prelims and mains. We will be looking at the current affairs section. We will also be looking at what is the exact syllabus for mains, prelims. We will also have an analysis of previous year questions for both prelims and mains. We will also have a look at what are the resources that are going to be required for studying science and technology. And there is also that kind of a doubt in many various aspirants that whether do we actually need to study for science and technology if we are from the background of science and technology. So let me tell you all that science and technology is a great equalizer again. Being engineering student, I can definitely tell you that various students coming from science and technology background as well find it difficult to study science and technology or answer science and technology questions in both prelims and mains. So that's why having science background won't put you at advantage, or having humanities background won't put you at disadvantage in this section. So that's why this is going to be equal section for all. Yes, definitely for humanities people, it would be little difficult for them to match to this section. So we will see how we are going to be required to go about this particular subject. But before that, I would just like to have a quick overview of those are present in our Zoom meeting. For those I am putting up this question, please answer that question. How many of you are from science background? If you are yes, just note it down so that I will get that kind of a understanding so that I can guide you accordingly. There are few people who are yet to vote. I request all of you to vote in next 5 seconds. Okay, I'm ending the polling in next 2 seconds. Okay, no problem. So 54% of you are from science background, but 46% are of you are from the humanities background. So definitely it is mix both English as well, both science as well as humanities background. So we will try and include all such kinds of things for humanities background or from science background as well. So let's try and cover everything that we are going to be requiring to prepare for science and technology, starting with first the importance. So if we see the importance of science and technology, as you can see this screenshot from our UPSC Vijaypath book. All of you might be aware about this UPSC Vijaypath book, that is previous year question paper analysis of UPSC, edited by Dharmadhikari sir and published by McGraw Hill Education. In that book, previous year, all kinds of questions are in a way given in very elaborate way along with the answer key and the explanation of the same. So if we see the weightage of science and technology. So over the years, for example, in 2019, there were 11 questions which were asked. In 2018, 13 questions, 2017, 7, 12, 8. So you can see from anywhere between about 10 to 12 questions on an average, we can see that have been asked. Over the years, the importance of science and tech has reduced a bit. If we see 2011, there were 18 questions, 16, 17, 17. Again, a dip, 8 questions, 12. But again, there is a rise, and now the questions are in double digit from last 2 years. So definitely, out of 100 questions, if there are about 10, 12 questions which are going to be asked for your examination. As you all know, the 2020 examination is yet to happen. So we at the moment don't know how many questions would appear over there. But there is high probability that again 10, 12 questions will be asked. So being carrying 10 to 12 questions, so it has a huge weightage again in the prelims. So we have to definitely give that kind of an importance to this particular subject. In mains examination, in GS3 paper, you all know, in GS3, out of 250 marks, there are many questions every year. For example, in 2019, last year, there were 5 questions for 60 marks. In 2018, only 25 marks question, 35, 25, 50, 37. So on an average, again, minimum 30 to 40 marks questions are going to be asked. The last year, it was a huge jump from 25 to 60. So we cannot predict much, but we can see that there is importance of science and technology in GS3 as well. So accordingly, we need to prepare for that. So let's see the actual prelim syllabus. So in actual prelim syllabus, there are 6-7 major points. In that, the point of science is only small point, general science. Even though it is mentioned as general science, it is kind of a misnomer, because UPSC in prelims examination asks questions based on science and technology rather than general science. So science and technology aspect is more dominant rather than general science. What here I mean from general science is that the questions are not basically asked from basics of physics, basics of chemistry or maths or biology, but the questions are asked from the application part of it. What are the daily usage? What are the recent developments in science and technology, improvements in that research and analysis? So all those kinds of aspects are going to be more important rather than pure sciences or general science from academic point of view. So definitely general science is going to be important. That is just the syllabus, but you have to remember that basically questions are going to be asked from application part of general science, that is technology part. So we have to rely on that. We are going to see the previous year question papers as well. But before that, let's move on to actual main syllabus. What is the main syllabus of UPSC as well? So this has been copy pasted from UPSC's 2020 notification that was released in the month of January or February. So all of you can see on the screen that there are few points in science and technology that are of importance. So science and technology developments. So developments and their applications and effects in everyday life. Again, importance of everyday life science is very important. So while you are studying for science and technology for UPSC, you have to be curious about the technologies that are coming up. For example, you might be going outside for shopping. You might be purchasing microwave oven. So at that time, you have to think what kind of microwave technology is there. So what is microwave? What is the meaning of microwave? In the radio sphere where the microwaves are there, what are the applications of those? How microwaves can produce that kind of a heating effect? If you're going to purchase a mobile and that mobile is having that particular megapixel camera. So what is megapixel in a camera? There are various types of screens. For example, there is AMOLED screen, there is LED screen, LCD screen. Now there are foldable devices that are coming up. So what kind of screen technology that are there? Nowadays, there are wearable technologies that you might be aware about that can measure your heart rate, that can measure your oxygen level in the blood, etc., etc. So you have to be aware about the everyday life applications of science that you are seeing. And with respect to Corona, again, various scientific progresses have been taking place in recent times. So you have to be keeping an very keen eye on all those developments as well. So everyday life science is the theme, major theme in main syllabus. The second point of the main syllabus is achievements of Indians in science and technology. And why I'm showing you this syllabus specifically, because again, there is this kind of a misconception amongst aspirants that most of the times UPSC asks question from anywhere. So it is not the case at all, at least in the mains examination. In mains examination, there is a clear syllabus that has been mentioned. And out of that syllabus only, based on those, questions are going to be arriving in the question paper. So that's why looking at the syllabus and in question papers is going to be important, so that it reassures you that questions are going to be there from the syllabus itself if you are preparing it for well. I request all of you to mute yourself so that others are not getting disturbed in the Zoom meeting. So next point, I was talking about achievements of Indians in science and technology. So Indians achievement is again important. So for example, you have to look at modern scientific developments and contribution of Indians into it. Also, a few ancient questions from ancient times can also be asked. So you have to go into details of that as well up to an extent, but largely you should be focusing on modern science and its development and contribution of India into it. Also, indigenization of technology and developing new technologies. So all of you might be aware at the moment about various kinds of international wars going on. And in that, one of the war is we can say, the trade wars that are also going on, and it plays a very important role of having an own technology which is going to keep our own private data secure. And that's why indigenization of technology is going to be of very much importance, and that's why this particular point is there. So you might be seeing that various apps have been banned recently by government of India because their origin is from Chinese origin and all that stuff. So uh, again, this point becomes important because of that. So whatever point of the syllabus is there, and if there is any particular development that is going on, so you have to be prepared for that development, and you have to study that particular point in detail. Also, if we see the next point, awareness in the fields of, now these are few specific areas which are considered to be very important areas that have been highlighted by UPSC in the syllabus. Again, IT, information technology, and especially IT is the most important of all these areas. Why? Because you all might be definitely aware about the concept called as Industrial Revolution 4.0. Industrial Revolution 4.0. Many of you might have attended few sessions by our trustee Bhushan Kelkar sir as well. If not, definitely do attend those sessions which are available online on YouTube. He has also written a very good book in Marathi on Industrial Revolution 4.0, also that is available in English. So why I was talking about this? So Industrial Revolution 4.0, you all might be knowing that it is a very emerging field, new technological developments that are arising, which is giving rise to Industrial Revolution 4.0, and it is going to change the entire spectrum of lives that we are living in, and it is going to revolutionize the ways and the techniques that we live our life, daily life. And for what is the meaning of Industrial Revolution 4.0? Let me tell you in short. So first industrial revolution was powered by engines, and then second industrial revolution was powered by electricity. Third industrial revolution was powered by information technology, and information technology, especially computer technology. And now Industrial Revolution 4.0 depends upon 3D printing, big data analytics, artificial intelligence, and all these kinds of emerging areas in the information technological sphere. So that is going to create various challenges, also opportunities. So that's why this area becomes very, very important. And that's why there has been increasing tendency of UPSC asking large amount of questions based on Industrial Revolution 4.0 and related aspects as well lately. And it is going to be a hot topic in the next prelims to come as well. So that's why prelims as well as mains, Industrial Revolution 4.0 becomes important. So in the mains topic, as we were saying, few areas of importance. These areas are not only important from prelims point of view or mains point of view, they are important from interview point of view as well. So all these areas are very hot topics that you should be aware about. Space technology. Recently, there has been a lot of talk about space technology because of a few of the private players like SpaceX venturing into it. They are creating various spaceships and aiming to have that kind of uh, travel experience in the space. So there are a few questions that are coming up. I am going to deal with those questions as well later on about the resources. So we were discussing about space. So definitely space is important in that too. What we have to specifically consider is that the developments in the space technology of India, of also few private organizations like SpaceX, that is now a new role that is being given to such kinds of an organization. They are taking up, and private sector is also opening up for the space in India as well, as you might have read the news for FDI and all those things, and opening up the space sector for the private sector. So all these things become important. Next, computers, as we talked in IT, robotics, that is also important part of Industrial Revolution 4.0. Nanotechnology, again, especially in times of Corona pandemic like situation, nanotechnology also is a kind of ray of hope, which can develop new kinds of drug delivery methodologies which can be used in curing corona as well, according to few research papers. You must have read that as well. Then biotechnology, again, very important, especially in the times when the population of the world is ever increasing, and we need to improve upon the ways of cropping patterns and develop new varieties of crops which would have higher yields to satisfy the ever-growing need of more and more food for the people. So that's why biotechnology becomes important. And there are various issues in biotechnology related to genetical modifications, genetically engineering crops that you must have referred to and must have heard about. Many of you might have heard about GM mustard that was recently tried to be launched in India. Before that, BT brinjal and all those kinds of various food products. So there are those kinds of aspects regarding whether uh, modifying the genetic structure of any food items is going to be helpful for the people or not. Would it have any kind of side effects on our health and nutritional aspects? So those aspects are also important from GS3 point of view. There are such kinds of questions which have been asked in the previous years as well. So that's why these questions become important. And again, if we see, apart from all these things that we were looking at, this new area of importance of intellectual property rights. So intellectual property rights, which consist of many of the new things that you must have definitely came across, be it trademarks, be it registrations, be it GI tags, and patents, copyrights. So all these are intellectual property rights. So what are intellectual property rights? If you are making a particular product and you have invested your own wisdom, your own knowledge and experience into that, and you have made something which is unique, which has not been made by anyone else at the moment, and then you can claim that this is my intellectual property, and then you can claim in a way kind of ownership of that particular product, and nobody apart from your permission can make replicate such a product if you have registered it with the appropriate authorities. So intellectual property rights are important, especially in country like India, where there are various indigenized products, there are various homemade, homegrown varieties of various food plants as well as food products, and also various other kinds of products apart from only food related products as well. So these products, what happens when you get intellectual property rights? For example, you must have known about this kind of a struggle to get intellectual property right registered for turmeric, and a few other countries were claiming intellectual property rights GI tag, that is GI tag for turmeric, but India had been able to get that, and various people have been involved into it. You might be knowing Ganesh Ingmire sir as well. He is going to take few sessions on your batch as well, on UPSC batch, who is considered to be international expert in intellectual property rights of India. So, and he has helped various regions, various farmer communities and other communities in India to register their intellectual property rights into India. Recently also there are many products which are in consideration of getting GI tag and all that stuff. So that's why intellectual property rights is very important topic, and from point of view of getting large margins and huge profits. For example, if you consider that there is a product, everybody knows about Kolhapuri chappal. Kolhapuri chappal. So if Kolhapuri chappal is being replicated and the fake copies of that are being made in Pune, then Kolhapuri chappal makers are going to be affected by this development. They are not going to get that kind of a profit because their products would sell less, and the availability of Kolhapuri chappal in Pune, which is made by uh, Punekar developers, etc. So that is going to harm the reputation because it is not going to carry the same kind of quality that Kolhapuri chappal uh, generally identifies with. So that's why registering that particular product region wise. So that is going to give that exclusive rights for their production, for marketing and sale, and that is going to enhance the revenue flow. If you are going to purchase authentic Kolhapuri chappal from that particular manufacturer, you are going to pay more. But if it is a fake copy and you know that, you are definitely going to pay less. So that is the kind of lucrative profit margins that IPR products, IPR certified products are going to give you. So that's why it is very important for a country like India, which is aspiring to become a kind of manufacturing hub in the world by with the various initiatives like Make in India and other indigenous product development that we are trying to develop. So that's why IPR again becomes very, very important. So these were the 3 points of the syllabus that have been mentioned in UPSC's official syllabus copy. So let's go on to discuss few of the very important areas. We have already discussed few of these important areas already. So if we consider various focus areas given out by UPSC. So space technology is again very, very important technology. As you have already seen that we discussed few questions. For example, there have been questions about GSLV. There have been questions about PSLV, launch vehicles. You might be knowing about all these launch vehicles. You might have studied about or read about that in your uh, various 6th to 10th NCRTs as well, probably. And then these kinds of launch vehicles are there, Mars missions are there, various lunar missions. So questions have already been asked in the UPSC prelims examination and mains examination as well. For example, at times there have been a question on Juno mission of NASA. And that was asking GS1 as well. Why it was asking GS1? Because GS1 has geography component, and in that Juno mission was asked. Why Juno mission was asked? Because it was asked from the perspective of evolution of Earth and how Juno mission puts light onto that. So that's kinds of questions. So it is going to be having that kind of an inter subject connections as well that you need to establish and you need to study about. So space technology, again, very important and emerging technology. So there have been talks about Space Force being created again by US. So these kinds of talks are there. Privatization of space is there, as I talked earlier as well. So all these issues are going to be of very much importance. Also, you might have listened to Elon Musk, that entrepreneur, which has set himself a target of putting humans and human civilization on Mars. So all these kinds of developments creates that kind of an interest in space technology amongst the commoners as well. And when these becomes very important news, UPSC is going to be bound to ask questions based on that. So next, if we see biotechnology, again, as I told you, biotechnology is going to be focus areas. Why I'm telling you all these focus areas? While referring to current affairs, you must be reading all these kinds of news which are coming up for these particular sections. So if there is anything related to space, you have to read and make notes appropriately for that. How to make notes, we are going to see that part as well. So again, after biotech, if we can see diseases. So especially in these times when corona pandemic is all over the world, diseases become very important. And in the past, there has been tendency of UPSC, whichever hot disease is there. For example, there has been a question on H1N1 in the past. There has been a question on Zika virus in the past. So question on H1 on corona is definitely going to be there this prelims or next prelims and also in the mains. So diseases, especially with the added awareness about vaccination and related things that we are all living in at the moment. So vaccination related aspects, what are the different stages of that? So you need to be aware about that as well. What are the differences? Basics about disease. So what are lifestyle diseases? What are the diseases caused by various pathogens, viruses, bacteria as well? You should be knowing about these details as well. Fourth industrial revolution we have already talked about, and especially in GS3, there is a tendency of UPSC asking questions in interdisciplinary manner, which is going to cover various aspects. So you can expect a question which can be on the lines of what is going to be the impact of industrial revolution 4.0 on the job market, for example, which is economy and science and technology combined question. So you have to study from that perspective as well. So apart from fourth industrial revolution, next major focus area is going to be nuclear technology. So just a second. Yeah, sorry for the disturbance. So we were discussing about nuclear technology. So nuclear technology being the most cleanly source of conventional energy. So that's why nuclear technology is going to be important, and it is a promise of clean fuel at a relatively lower price. The very important topic again. Various kinds of nuclear reactors, second generation, third generation. So you would have to be aware about those all generations as well. If we look at communication technology, nowadays there are sorry for the disturbance, just little irritation in my throat. So we were discussing about various technologies, communication technology, and with the you must have read about that statement or heard that statement that data is the new oil. And data being the new oil, that signifies the importance of data and importance of internet speed and communication technologies. That's why 5G, 4G In 4G also, VoLTE, voice over LTE, you must all have been reading about that, all things. So all these things are going to be important. So what is the difference between 5G, 4G? What are the ways through which data packets travel in these kinds of technologies? What is more energy efficient? What kind of spectrum allocations are there for both these technologies? You must be aware about all these things. So whenever new things come up about this, you must be reading those and making notes accordingly. Next, defense technology. So recently you all have read about various Rafale like fighter jets, and just give me a second. Yes. So defense related technologies. So various defense related technologies are coming up, which are going to be important. So you all must be reading about all those things as well. And defense, and in defense nowadays, new kinds of technologies are being used for spying purposes, for research purposes, and that's why defense is going to have that kind of an important area where questions are being asked. Missile technologies are also developing, and nuclear technology, nuclear devices, defense technologies, etc. Also new developments and research. So we are going to be looking at these focus areas again. Let's look at few of the prelims previous year question paper and its analysis over period. So if we see, this is the highlighted section of chapter 6 of UPSC Vijaypad book that I talked about. So this book contains various topics of science and technology and previous year question paper. So science and technology, you will get this kind of a chart wherein you will analyze what kinds of questions have been asked. And we will have a look at few of the questions which are of interesting nature. You all would be able to relate to those questions very easily. So for example, we would solve few of the important questions which at the moment, even without any studies, you might be able to relate to. So first question that we are going to discuss is about space technology. It was from 2018. And if you can see from the screen, the question reads like, with reference to India's satellite launch vehicles, consider the following. And first statement is, PSLVs launch the satellites useful for Earth resources monitoring, whereas GSLVs are designed mainly for communication satellites. So if you are aware about GSLV and PSLV and their full forms, then you might be able to answer whether this particular statement one is right or not directly. Second, if you know, satellite launched by PSLV appear to remain permanently fixed. PSLV permanently fixed in the same position in the sky from a particular location on the Earth. So if you know the full form of GSLV, GSLV is Geostationary Launch Vehicle. So in the name itself, there is the mention of geostationary, which signifies that it remains permanently fixed at a particular position. So GSLV it is, not the PSLV. So that's why second option becomes wrong directly. And third option, GSLV Mark III is a 4-stage launch vehicle. No, it is not the 4-stage launch vehicle. It is 3-stage launch vehicle. So that's why this option also becomes wrong. So even if you don't know this kind of a very factual detail, whether it is 4-stage rocket launcher vehicle or 3rd-stage rocket launch vehicle, even if you only know that PSLV and JSLV basic difference and their full form, you might be able to solve this question. How? By eliminating the second option. How? By eliminating, look at the point. So if you eliminate second, so this is not going to be the answer. Again, eliminating second, this is not going to be the answer. And if you know that GSLV being communication satellite, and how you can infer that, why I'm telling you this kind of techniques, because these are going to be helpful for you while you are attempting various prelims questions. So GSLV being geostationary vehicle, what it is going to imply is that it is at a fixed place at a particular position over the Earth for 24 hours. So it can be used in communication because it is going to completely give you that kind of signal for 24 hours. So that application also you can infer from the name itself. It is not going to be foolproof formula where you can apply these kinds of inferences and logical techniques every question, but these kinds of questions can be solved. So you know one is right, you know second is wrong. So by that, one is right and second is wrong, you directly come to the right answer, that is A. And it has been explained in the explanation section as well. So you can read more statements about that later in the book. And we have tried to include thought processes wherever possible for the same. In the thought process, whatever I just explained to you about GSLV, PSLV, that has been explained how to arrive at a particular answer without knowing the exact answer. So it is going to again help you in eliminating those. So as can be seen from this question, there are various simple questions which can be asked from such basic topics of space related aspects. So you must be aware about those aspects. So next question is about Indian region, again 2018 question, Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System, IRNSS. So there are few statements about it. First is IRNSS has 3 satellites in geostationary, 4 satellites in geosynchronous orbits. Let's see whether it is right or wrong. IRNSS covers entire India and about 5,500 square kilometer beyond its border. So, for example, the name itself suggests Indian Regional Navigation System. Indian Regional Navigation System. So, even though it is called as Indian Regional Navigation System, it might not be covering all areas of the Earth. Will it be covering? It won't be covering. And that's why uh, seeing at the option of 5,500 square kilometer, it looks very large. For example, the difference between India and few of the neighboring countries is about 1,000 kilometers. Like for example, South Africa, etc. I think the distance is about 1,000 to 1,500 kilometers at the max. So Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System, why it will cover 5,500 square kilometers? So this option seems wrong if you don't know exactly. The answer, many of the candidates had known at that time that it covers about 1,500 kilometers for sure. So if they know, then it's well and good. But if you know that second is wrong, then which of the following statement correct? Second wrong, again second wrong. You remain only with first and second. So if you know 3 and 4 satellites in geostationary and geosynchronous orbit, you can come up with the answer directly. So these are various small techniques that are going to help you in eliminating all these kinds of options. Okay? There are few questions in the chat box. Let me just read those copies, read those questions. Harshada is asking, sir, can we get hard copy or soft copy of UPSC Vijaypath? Yes, Harshada, it is available as hard copy on Amazon. You can purchase it from Amazon. Gautami, is there any such book of Chanakya Mandal for mains also? At the moment, we don't have such a book for mains also. We are in process of developing one. As soon as we develop one, we would let you know for sure. There are a few more questions that we will have a look at. For example, these are science and tech related questions. For example, in 2014, there were this match the pairs question, spacecraft and its purpose. So whichever launch missions are there in news at that particular time, you should be referring to those particular, and you should at least, what are the basic things while reading any current affairs related to space and related aspects. So you must be knowing the name of that technology. You should know the full form. If it is easily readable, easily you can remember that particular full form. What is the purpose or objective of that, and on which particular planet or star that particular mission is being sent. So these 3-4 details are the only details that you should be aware about. There are a few more details that have been asked by UPSC in the past, like for example, astrosat. So you should be knowing the weight, you should be knowing its orbit. So these all things are there, but it is very difficult for a normal aspirant to keep memorizing all such aspects. So even if you don't memorize this, these questions are not going to be covered by any other aspirants as well. So you don't lose that much amount of advantage. So no need to memorize so many facts, but basic facts that you should be definitely aware about are the basic full forms, on which planet or star that mission is going towards, and its basic objectives. That's it. Next, if we see a few more questions, I'm just highlighting these questions for you. So biology and biotechnology. Those of you whom would have listened to Topper's talk of this year's rank 22 Mandar Patki, and he was discussing this same question with all our candidates about Denisovan, and he had specifically read about that particular news. That's why he was able to answer that question. But for many of the candidates in 2019, this question was little difficult because it was directly factual. And from the name Denisovan, it was little difficult to arrive at a particular answer. So he has highlighted how he answered that question, because he had specifically read from the newspaper and he had made few notes about that. So Denisovan is an early human species that was in news last year because there was some discovery about it in the past. A few more questions that we can see. There are questions about RNA technology, DNA technology. and all those things. Okay. There was this interesting question, again a simple question. What is CAS9 protein that is often mentioned in news? So those of you who might be aware about this CRISPR technology, so that CRISPR technology is used for gene editing, and gene editing being very much important topic, this was a very basic thing that anyone who has read about gene editing was aware about. So it is CS9. What it does is that, for example, if there are these kinds of genes, okay, and these particular gene has a defect in this particular uh, section of the gene. So what CS9 protein does is that it acts like a scissor, katri sarka kaam karta hai, and it cuts a particular area of this particular section of the gene, and it can be then removed separately, and new gene part can be inserted into that. So that is why CS9 protein was very much known to everyone, because it was basic operation of this particular thing. There are a few questions about the sources. Gautami, Vignesh, and Avinash has asked about this all things. I would be discussing about sources as well in very short time. Don't worry about it. Okay. So these are basic things that are going to be asked. This is very important topic. I would just let you know the basic crux of this topic, and then we would be able to look at the question. So there is this kind of multi-drug resistant concept which is very much there in news, and it must be known to all the people, even if they are not studying for UPSC as well. So let me just elaborate you a bit about that concept, multi-drug resistance. So what is multi-drug resistance? Is that many a times what happens, especially in countries like India, where the doctor to patients ratio is less. That's why what people do is self-medicate themselves. What is self-medication? Is that if they have got a particular medicine from a doctor on fever last time when they visited doctor, again next time when they are going to have fever, what they are going to do, instead of going to doctor, they will just get that earlier prescription itself, go to the medical shop and show that prescription and again get the medicines. So this self medication, what it does is that self medication is going to hamper various things. For example, there are few chat box questions that are there. I will definitely deal with those questions later. I was discussing about the ill effects of self medication, because last time your fever might have originated because of some other reason, this time it might be some other reason. And if last time your doctor has given you antibacterial drugs and again you are taking the same drugs for this time, it might hamper your overall health. How it might hamper? Because usually now you have seen the effect and how the medicines works, etc. So those viruses, those bacteria that are there inside your body are going to mutate according to the effects of the medicine. And if they are going to get the dosage, and if the dosage is not right, they are going to be just weakened bacteria that are going to lie inside your body. And if the dose is not complete, they are not going to get completely killed. And that's why next time when you are going to be again in a situation where your immunity level is low, those viruses are going to become much more lethal, because they have already developed immunity against those bacteria, against those antibacterial drugs that you have already taken. And that's why it is going to be dangerous now, that again if you use the same antibacterial drug, it is not going to work. You would need more lethal antibacterial drug. And right now there is a situation in the world that many of the patients suffer from this kind of micro multi-drug resistant disease. So what happens in that? Uh, Development of superbug takes place into the body, because of which any kind of most lethal antibacterial is not going to work, and it can be the situation that just by normal fever you can die, because no bacterial drug is working on you. So this is becoming very huge problem in the country like India and other developing and some few of the developed countries as well. So that's why antibacterial drug resistance is an important concept to know about. So what is the solution on that? For example, government of India is also working to make people aware about the ill effects of taking medicines without prescription and all. And you must have seen this tablet. There is a red line on the tube of tablet. There is a red line, And that red line signifies that it is bacterial drug, antibacterial drug, and you should not be taking that without the prescription of the doctor. So these kinds of efforts are being done. So these are a few of the current affairs that you must be reading about. So students were aware about these current affairs, and this question was in that line. So the question reads like, which of the following are the reasons for the occurrence of multi-drug resistance in microbial pathogens in India? So now I have explained you the concept. So the first option is genetic predisposition of some people. So genetic predisposition of some people is not going to be at all important, because multi-drug resistance does not have anything related to genetic predisposition or anything. It is just about, is my voice audible to you? Few of you are asking questions to me directly in my private chat. That's why I'm asking. I wish my voice is audible to you all. Yes, I am audible. Good. So I was telling you about this drug resistance. So genetic predisposition has nothing to do about it. Taking incorrect doses of antibiotics to cure disease. So as we just see, this is definitely a problem because of which multi-drug resistance can happen. Using antibiotics in livestock farming. Yes, I did not discuss about this particular point, but this also has an effect. For example, in China, again, various things related to China are at the moment in discussion, and this is one of those things. In China, many of the farmers, many of the people who grow who has the business of raising animals for chicken, meat, etc. So those industries, just a second, just give me a second. Sorry for the disturbance. I am not able. Sorry for the disturbance. There was some connection issue. So I was talking to you about antibiotics in livestock farming. So there are various livestock farmers in China which are using antibiotics without any kind of prescription, and those antibiotics are going to remain in the body of that particular animals, and it can be passed on to humans which are going to consume that. And that's why it is also one of the reasons of multi-drug resistance increasing in people of India and some other countries. So that's why using antibiotics is very much a reason of multi-drug resistance. But multiple chronic diseases in some people. Now, this is little suspicious question. Right now, official answer key of 2019 UPSC paper is not yet out. Few people that multiple chronic diseases in some people can be the reason of multi-drug resistance. How? Because those people are going to consume more amount of antibacterial drugs because they have multiple diseases, and that's why there are higher chances of multi-drug resistance. But according to me and various other experts as well, 2 and 3 must be the answer. But there are many people whose such kinds of opinions have been debated by UPSC in the past. So let's wait for the official answer key. But most probably the correct answer is going to be 2 and 3. And why I'm saying these kinds of suspicious questions? Every year there are about 5 to 6 questions out of 100 questions which are having few doubts in the minds of aspirants and experts as well, which one is the correct answer. And you actually UPSC should be taking note of that, and they should not be asking such kinds of questions which are a little confusing for the experts also, which have various interpretations. But at the moment we can go with the 2 and 3 answer. But remember to refer to again actual UPSC answer keys that officially are released by UPSC after the result. So in this week or next week, we are expecting to get the official answer keys of 2019 prelims and scorecards of all the candidates as well. Yes, I have got that I am audible now. A few of the people are still messaging in chat box, no issues. So we have discussed few of these questions. Let's move on to few next questions, basic things. So which of the above spread plant diseases? So plant diseases, very simple question. Plant diseases can be spread by birds by carrying various pathogens, dust blowing, various different causation factors can flow in the dust and they can reach to other plants. With the rain also, various plant diseases can spread with the rain, with the water that is flowing and the wind blowing. So all the factors are there. So that was very simplistic thing actually. So all of above is the correct answer for that. This is very simple question. I must be amazed if some of you answer this question negatively or does any kind of mistake. So everyone has read that in basic science books of state board as well as NCRTs. So which of the following leaf modifications in the leaves of various plants in the desert areas. So to inhibit water loss, you all know the conditions in desert areas and why plants need this kinds of inhibition of water loss. So first option is hard and waxy leaves, then tiny leaves and thorns instead of leaves. So you all have read that these all three are the factors and modifications which leaves and those plants in desert areas have made into themselves to inhibit the water loss. So that's why the answer is going to be D, all of the above. So simple such questions are also going to be there, which can be answered by anyone with the basic knowledge of science and technology, which has studied in your respective state board and CBSE boards. Okay. So let's look at few such questions. Now, I would not deal with the question. We would just look at the topics. GM mustard, I already discussed. Genetical modification. Carbon fertilization, very simple concept of carbon fertilization was again asked. Very basic thing. Then as I discussed with you already, Zika virus. And what was asked about Zika virus? So it's the medium of transmission, whether it can pass through mosquito and sexual transmission is possible or not. So such simple questions about viruses are going to be asked. So nuclear transfer technology was there. Little difficult, but not that difficult question. Again, a question about algae-based biofuels. So biofuels, again, part of biotechnology. So all the hot areas that we have discussed, the questions are being asked on those particular topics only. Bioinformatics, again, transcriptome. This is little technical question, little difficult for few people. But those who have read the basics of that would not find it that much difficult. Okay, so food safety and packaging, so related to that as well, there were few questions. Then again, which of the following are correct? Viruses can affect bacteria, fungi, and plants. So viruses can affect all of these things. So these are simple questions. The question that I discussed with you about H1N1 virus is sometime mentioned with respect to what? So all of you know H1N1 is swine flu, not AIDS, bird flu, or dengue. So such simple questions all have also been asked. So it is like asking COVID-19 is caused by which virus and coronavirus. So such simple question was also there in 2015. So these questions are like full tosses and that you should not be missing to hit sixers on those full tosses. So you must be very much ready for such kinds of things. Basic questions were asked about vitamin C and deficiency disease. You all have read these kinds of things in your basic books of state board and NCRTs as well. Okay, so these kinds of questions are basically there. We will look at few other questions as well. I'm just scrolling through so that you are seeing calcium, iron, sodium, which of the minerals in human body required for contraction of muscles. So 1, 2, and 3, calcium, iron, and sodium, all of them are required for that. Which of the following disease transmitted from one person to another person? Chikungunya, hepatitis B, and HIV/AIDS. So apart from chikungunya, because chikungunya cannot be transmitted from one person to another person, but hepatitis B and HIV/AIDS can be. Hepatitis B again is very important because of various movements that are going on and various awareness campaigns about hepatitis B in India and in the world. But chikungunya, you all know that it cannot be transmitted from human to human. It is not a contagious disease as such. DNA technology, recombinant DNA technology was also asked. So all these kinds of things have been asked in the past. So we would go ahead from biotechnology to few other areas. So for example, in physics, again, very important topics like black holes. You all have read and aware about black holes. So again, a simple topic, and black holes were very much important and those were detected. So gravitational waves was in news from 2017-18 and question was asked about it finally in the 2019. So black hole related question was there. So ELISA was regarding laser interferometer space antenna project. So question again on that. So space related a few things. So a few topics, for example, while reading basics about, I told you that most of the questions are going to be asked from application part rather than the general science part. And that's why you must be reading the basics as well at times. For example, a few of the basic things in physics that you must be aware about, you can write it down. So gravity is there. which is definitely going to be important. Magnetism is there, which is important. Refraction, reflection. So all these kinds of things which have direct application in various applications that we are right now using. So you must be aware about the basics of such particular facts as well. So you can see all such things over here. So gravity related questions are there, and Albert Einstein's equation, etc. Event horizon, singularity, string theory, etc. Question related to understanding of the universe. So these kinds of questions are asked in this. There was this kind of technology called as Li-Fi. Because of its similarity with the name Wi-Fi, it became very important. But it actually, after 2016 till 2020, most of the applications based on Li-Fi are not yet actively used in the world. But still, it was a very hot topic in that year. Questions were being expected, and definitely question was asked that year as well. So whichever is there, very much in news, you have to be aware about those. Someone's mic is on. Please, I request those people to mute their mics. Again, next term, Goldilocks Zone. Whoever has read about space, outer space, and possibility of humanity in outside the Earth must have definitely came across this term as Goldilocks Zone. It is a term which signifies the particular area around a star which is habitable, like Earth. So that's why search for Earth-like planets in outer space. In that context, Goldilocks Zone is very much used. So these are few basic things that you must be aware about which are used. Fuel cell. You all must have read about fuel cells in your 11th, 12th if you are from science background. So that was asked about it. Okay. What is optical illusion? Basics about optics. I talked about reflection, refraction. So a basic part of that in 11th science again. These are a few basic things that you are aware about. And again, as you can see, the application of science in daily life, size of the sun at dusk, color of the sun at dawn, moon being visible at dawn. So all these things are very basic things which you observe daily in your life. So you have to just keep your eyes open, be curious, ask the question why to whatever is happening in front of you without just letting that, yes, it is happening, let it happen, I don't have to do anything with it. So just be curious, ask questions and get answers to that. Nothing else than that. So you are going to be, so rainbow, again a daily phenomenon. So question on rainbow, whether it is dispersion, refraction, internal reflection. So it is combination of all these things, dispersion as well as refraction, as well as total internal reflection that you all have read about. So these kinds of simple questions are going to be there. There are going to be few difficult questions as well that you must be aware about and deal with. So some chemistry related questions as well are there. Like you can see, commonly consumed, unwanted or controversial chemicals likely to be found in. So in lipstick at times, lead is used. In soft drinks, brominated vegetable oil, which is harmful for the health, is used. Chinese fast food, monosodium glutamate. That was in news because of Maggie and stuff. So because of all these things, again, D123 is the answer. So such simple question. Again, chemistry point of view questions are there, but again, these questions are related to daily life. Again, that point that science questions are going to be originating from daily life is being highlighted over there. Fly ash. So it is an application wherein power plants that use coal as a fuel. So the byproduct of that fly ash, which is used for various different purposes. So the question is on that. Coal bed methane, shale gas. So shale gas revolution was very much there in US, in European countries in 2014. Still, US right now is slowly becoming less dependent on conventional sources of energy and on Middle East for oil sources, because they have found a huge resources of shale gas and they are utilizing those. That's why that was in news, and that's why shale gas based question was again there. So you just have to keep your eyes open on the current affairs and read whatever is there. So simple, very simple thing. What is the example of chemical change? So melting of ice, definitely not at all a chemical change. It is just a physical change. Souring of milk, is it the chemical change? Yes, it is a chemical change. Crystallization of sodium chloride, that is crystallization of common salt. It is not a chemical change again. So only chemical change is 3 only. That's why B is the answer. So simple things that are there in daily life, you have to just observe those and be aware about those. So such simple questions are going to be asked in that. Okay. So apart from it, at the moment, let's stop for a while with respect to the current affairs questions for prelims. Let's move on to a few of the questions in mains. But before that, there are few questions that I would like to answer to. Avinash is talking about book. Shreya is also talking about same. Mininath is talking about any book for mains like UPSC Vijaypath. At the moment, we don't have a book for like UPSC Vijaypath for mains, but there are a few books from other publications that are available on Amazon. You might be able to see those. I think there is one book by Disha Publication. There is one book by New Vishal Publication as well. You can definitely read those books that are going to be useful for you. Nidhi, your mic is on. I am muting you. Please ensure that you are not unmuting yourself midway when you don't want to ask any questions. So as you can see, you might be able to see on the screen now that we are shifting towards mains questions. Vignesh has asked, sir, science and technology साठी कोणते मराठी लँग्वेजचे बुक आहे का? Vignesh, I will come to that point. Sayuja Godse is asking whether Spectrum is useful. Spectrum, science and technology spectrum book I am not aware about at the moment, but I will tell you about the resources. Don't worry about it. We will come to that point in very short time. So some previous year question paper analysis about the major themes of mains. So space, again, very important sector in mains questions as well. Policy, research related questions are also at times asked. Emerging technology, again, very important area. As we already discussed, biotech, nanotechnology, 3D printing, agricultural science, etc., etc. Last year itself, there was question on agricultural science, computer and IT, energy, especially nuclear energy and new renewable energy sources that are also asked, health and biotechnology and IPR. So these are few focus areas. And if we look at few of the questions, I would just remind you again that trend of UPSC for mains, 60 marks, 25 marks, 35 marks, again, very important section. So let's have a look at it. So mains previous year question papers, 2019, there was a question. How was India benefited from contribution of M. Vishweshwaraya and MS Swaminathan in water engineering and agriculture sciences respectively? So you all must be knowing about the contribution about both these experts in engineering and agriculture respectively, and because of them India's expertise in engineering and agriculture has become very important. You all know the contribution of MS Swaminathan about India's green revolution and stuff. So that's why these questions were not that much difficult. And again, if you can relate to the syllabus of mains, achievements of Indians in science and technology, directly on this topic, there is a question. So no questions apart from what the syllabus mentions. So it again reaffirms that point of discussion that we were having before. Second question, what is India's plan to have its own space station and how will it benefit our space program? So that was in discussion last year. So that's why this question was asked. The people were expecting question on Gaganyaan as well. So that was not asked, but having own private space station was asked. What is Cyber Dome project? So now few of the people consider this question from the point of view of cyber security syllabus in GS3, but I consider it part of science because cyber security is again related to science and technology. So Cyber Dome project, very important project. Just go and Google onto it. Many of the students had already read about that in last year, so that's why they were aware about it. So very useful. And very easy question again. How is the government of India protecting traditional knowledge and medicine from patenting by pharmaceutical companies? So as we discussed about IPR, importance of IPR, GR, etc., GI tags, etc. So again, traditional knowledge of medicines, very important. And Ayush Ministry and other various departments of government of India are working to protect that. So there are various initiatives. Just go and Google. And all the people who are aware about, again, this question as well, few of them, those who have not read were not aware, but many of them were aware because those initiatives were again in news that year. How can biotechnology help improve the living standard of farmers? So again, you can discuss about GM crops, how it is going to increase the yield, how it is going to make crops resistant to changes being impacted because of human-induced anthropogenic global warming that we are experiencing at the moment. So various different things you can discuss in this question. So simple question. All the 5 questions were literally simple. So all these kind of 60 marks were important and were easily solvable questions were there. So these are basic things that if you do and you are having a keen eye on the current affairs, then it is going to be very easy for you to maintain the tempo and write answers accordingly. In 2018, this question was a little difficult for most of the people because Bose-Einstein statistics done by Professor Satyendranath Bose and discussed that work. So that question, even though many students were not able to answer, so
these kinds of questions, which are very much factual in nature, and there was not that much amount of significance in 2018 to ask about bone science and statistics. So that's why many of them were not able to answer. So it does not in a way hamper your competitive advantage, because almost all the people are not going to be able to answer it very specifically. So such questions, even though 1 or 2 questions every 2-3 years are going to be there, you don't need to worry about it much, and divert your attention from core areas which you should be reading, and start reading about such obscure areas. So you can neglect such things at times, but if you have interest, if you have time, definitely going through all these things are going to be helpful. Next question, only 2 questions were there that year in 2018, only for 25 marks, 10 and 15 marks each. Next question was literally easy. Why there is so much activity in the field of biotechnology in our country? As I discussed already, because of issue of hunger, because of issue of growing population and needs of and because of also global warming and climate change and the impact of that on agricultural produce and the yield. So because of all these things, it was happening. And also biopharma. So biopharma and all those industries, there were various discussions going on that year. So that's why that question was there. Stem cell therapy. Now we would just look at the topics and go ahead. We won't be discussing all the questions on 2017 onwards because of lack of time. So let's look at stem cell therapy, leukemia, thalassemia, how it is going to be helpful in all these kinds of medical conditions. So very much easy question which was in news. Question which was expected. India has achieved remarkable success in unmanned space missions, including Chandrayaan and Mars orbiter mission. Now you also have a experience of Chandrayaan-2 mission, and it was not entire success, but it was able to reach over there, and we know what happened to it afterwards, but has not ventured into manned space mission. So later on, Gaganyaan mission was announced last year for the same thing. So what are the main obstacles to launching manned space mission, both in terms of technology and logistics? So you must be aware about having that kind of space gears is one of the challenges. Having that kind of temperatures and temperature shield for the spaceships is one of the challenges. Various such challenges are there. So you can enlighten the examiner on those particular obstacles. So that was a question very much expected from last many years. Okay. Next question. Again, 2016, give an account on growth and development of nuclear science. I already discussed that. So nuclear science, and in that also fast breeder reactor program. So there are various technologies of reactors. So you must be aware about that. And in 2017-16, because of various protests going on in Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu over various nuclear power plants, this was very much expected question, which was asked by UPSC quite expectedly so. So that was about it. Next, if we see, discuss India's achievement in the field of space science and technology, application, socio-economic development benefits, nanotechnology, again, very expected question. 2015 was standard positioning system and GPS, again, technology, IRNSS program. We already discussed that program. Goods and labor and impact of that. Discuss advantage and security implication of cloud hosting. In 2015 only, they had asked about cloud hosting, very important. Traditional knowledge, digital library. Traditional knowledge, already a question was asked on traditional knowledge afterwards, as well as we have already discussed. In 2014, scientific research, Indian universities, etc. Antibiotics, drug-resistant disease. In 2014 only, in the mains, that question was asked, the concept we have already discussed. And globalized world, intellectual property rights assume significance, etc. So these kinds of questions were there in last few years. Other questions you would be able to read from the internet and from downloading the official question papers from the internet official UPSC website. So even though these questions are there, what is now going to be important is how much time we should be devoting to that. And that's why it is important that even if you're from any background, how to deal with science and technology syllabus. So while preparation, again, most of the times, as we have seen already in all the previous year questions, the focus area is going to be current affairs. And that's why having a good command over current affairs is going to be the key. And from 2013 onwards, so in UPSC 2011 onwards, the prelims syllabus and pattern had changed. And from 2013 onwards, main syllabus and pattern has changed. And that's why having the differentiation in mind, there is a trend that we can observe in UPSC that theoretical questions, for example, at times in the previous years, in 1990s and in early years in 21st century, few of the questions were asked on balancing of the reactions from chemistry. Few of the numericals have already been asked in the previous times. But nowadays, these kinds of technical questions are not being tested by UPSC, but UPSC is giving more importance to current affairs and daily application of science in daily life. So that's why your bent of mind should also be like that. And you should not be, again, revising balancing of reactions, how to solve various numericals of physics, etc. But you should be focusing on daily current affairs more for science and technology. So that's why reading daily current affairs from whichever newspaper you are reading, be it the Hindu, be it the Indian Express, becomes important. And also various compilations that we are going to provide you. For example, our monthly magazines, our weekly magazines, our weekly current affairs sessions. In that as well, our expert faculty, Viraj sir, is going to cover various science and technology related aspects as well. So all these things are going to be sufficient, but still, as we have seen already, that there are few questions which are going to be there from the theoretical portion. And to understand the development of technology and current affairs that are going on, you must be aware about the theoretical science behind it. So that's why reading class 6 to 10 basic NCRTs. I'm not again telling you to read from first chapter to last chapter. Just go on to read the important chapters out of those books. And when we will be starting our science module, at that time we will be letting you know which are the actual subjects that we are going to teach, that you need to which are the chapters that you need to refer to. And this is the purpose of this UPSC strategy workshop, is that to enable you to self-study, because whenever our module is going to start, still at times you are going to be referring to current affairs of science. You might be interested in dealing few of the theoretical topics about that. So how to have that kind of an orientation, that's why this strategy workshop has been arranged. So I hope that it is helping you. So class 6 science, class 7 science, class 8 science, class 9, class 10. So all these science NCRTs are going to be important, and you have to read the basics from that. And you can avoid the part of balancing the reactions. You can avoid chemical reactions part. You can also avoid numericals and all those things, because those questions, those types of questions are not asked, but only the general understanding is expected. Class 11, 12. So biology 11, 12 reading is, I would recommend, but reading again, all the chapters of 11th, 12th, physics and chemistry is not at all recommended. Only few basic chapters, few basic concepts which are being asked, only those concepts. But biology, again, few important chapters from 11th and 12th can be read. And biology 12th, last 4 chapters are again very important. So those must be referred to, those must be read. So you can write it down. Class 12th biology, last 4 chapters are going to be of importance. It is going to have multiple importance in your environment as well as science and technology sources. Other sources, if you consider, so Lucent GK. So Lucent GK is going to be again very important source for science and technology. And there were earlier few Marathi translations of Lucent GK as well. And in Lucent GK, science and technology portion is quite well comprehensively covered. So even if you're not finding appropriate time to read all the NCRTs, you can refer to Lucent GK, and you will be able to solve various questions from that as well. So that is a good book. And various MPSC aspirants also refer to this Lucent GK for science and technology portion. So that can be useful. So whichever Pearson, TMH, Arihant manual is there for latest prelims exam that you are going to be preparing for. So be it 2020 or 2021. And in that, there is going to be science section. So you can read that section. So now TMH has been renamed actually as MHE. So these kinds of books can be of use. But again, most important thing is going to be current affairs. These are only going to be supplementary nature for clearing your basics and fundamentals. And those who are especially very good at science, and they believe so, because many of you, 54% of you, have science background, but I think many of you would be engineers and they must have lost touch with the science part of science and technology. So that's why it is definitely better to just reread it again, just for once or twice, but focus should be on the current affairs. So while reading current affairs, what are the areas that you should be focusing on? So the Hindu newspaper, if we see, so this basically on Sunday, most of the times there is a dedicated page related to science and technology. So in that as well, there are going to be various things, various research. So what to focus on and what not to. For example, there is a news IISc team identifies an early stage biomarker for Alzheimer's. So it has just identified at the moment. It has not yet finalized that research, and that research is not yet that much well known. So you can skip such kind of news, because scientists are there. Their task is going to be research, and there are going to be various research papers that are going to be published. But if that has that kind of a large amount of impact on the world, it is going to solve some kind of a big problem of humanity. So then only you must be reading those particular news. At times, few obscure news items, few obscure research, it is going to keep on happening. You know, need not refer to those, but those which are of very much importance, then you can definitely read that. So new source of white light. So for example, while reading that, you must be knowing what is white light, and you must be Googling that term particular, what is white light, what are different components of that. So you must be knowing all the basic terminologies, at least, even if you are not aware about the in detailed analysis of those particular terms. Mitochondria, immigrant that add power to the mother cell. So it is very basic thing in biotechnology. In any cell, mitochondria is the powerhouse. So that function is important. So you can definitely read that particular news, which is going to again just revise your basic concept. So you can read such kind of news, which is going to be of importance. Okay. If we see next, daily current affairs, for example, in last page of the Hindu, at times this kind of news items used to come. Nowadays, at also on few pages there are going to be such items. So in that, space sports car now flying beyond Mars. There was Elon Musk Tesla Roadster. So that news is 1 or 2 years old. So again, that becomes important because private organization going on to Mars, etc. So you can read that. So such news items you can read from there as well. Also in Indian Express, you all know explained is the very important section. And in explained section, whenever there are any topics related to science and technology, particularly I found it very interesting. And those topics definitely add a lot of value to what we are going to be reading about. And what we are studying. So that's why reading explained section, science and technology portion is going to be almost essential, is what I would suggest you. So please try and read that. And also there are other channels. So I would suggest you personally to have a look at these videos by Dharmarika Research, Science and Spirituality. It also definitely adds to, opens up various areas of thinking about science and spirituality, and various science related aspects he has explained in very detail in those sessions as well. Also Rajya Sabha TV, on Rajya Sabha TV there is a program called as Science Monitor, and it comes once weekly, and that program is also quite good and covers various news items. But you should not be religiously following that. Whenever you are having some spare time, whenever you are having your breakfast, having your dinner, and you want to watch something educational, you can refer to such kinds of uh, episodes as well. Okay. So I wish that you are noting all these resources down as I am explaining to you, so that you are remembering all these resources. If we see next in magazine section, Yojana, Kurukshetra are there. So there are some specific topics at times. For example, Kurukshetra, rural health was there. So health is very important topic of science and technology. So you can refer to such kinds of magazines as well. Again, Yojana, there was science for development and various kinds of magazines that are going to come up, health and weighing being for all. So some specific issues which are going to cover science and technology related aspect, you can read few of the articles out of that. Reading all the articles is going to be very difficult from Yojana and Kurukshetra as well. So you can skip reading that. If you have time, then only you can refer to that, but it is not essential. It is not essential. ठीक आहे, की वाचलंच पाहिजे असं नाहीये. So whatever sources I am telling you, whatever sources anybody else is going to tell you, all these sources are not going to be compulsory in nature. So all these sources you must be just aware about, and you can skip those sources if your current affairs is very much strong. So these are all available sources. I'm just telling you advantages, disadvantages of all these sources, and benefits and disadvantages of that. There are a few questions that are there in the chat box. Let me just read those questions. Rishabh is asking where we can get Kurukshetra magazine. It is available on Government of India's websites. Which website I'm at the moment not remembering exactly, but you can have the e-subscription. You just Google it and you will get it. And it can be delivered as hard copy at your home as well. Sayuja Godse is asking 2 more years for attempt, when to focus on current. I would deal with that as well. Shantanu is asking about Science Reporter. I am going to that as well. So Science Reporter, it is published by National Institute of Science Communication, Government of India. So Science Reporter is again a very good magazine. Again, reading that all sections of science reporter are not going to be important. In our Sadashivpet and Warza Center, you will be able to get the copies of science reporter as well to read, and it is available for e-subscription again online. You can go and subscribe to that. But again, reading all the things from science reporter not mandatory. Reading every issue of science reporter again not mandatory. If you have time, energy, and interest, then you can read. But if you don't have energy, time, you can just read current affairs compilations, magazines, and from that you will get whatever information that is required to be there. But if there is some specific issue that you are not finding it in any other magazine, you can refer to that. But again, not essential. Not essential. ठीक आहे, हे वाचलंच पाहिजे असं नाही. Our monthly magazine, be it Marathi magazine or English magazine, you can refer to that. I was specifically insistent upon this to the students, that while you are referring to various space missions, go to the official website. For example, if you are going to NASA, so at the time of your year of examination, go to NASA's website, see missions part on that website. There is a tab called as missions. And in that tab, whatever the recent missions are there, those are going to be highlighted. Just go click onto the every tab and just read the details of those particular missions so that you are aware about those missions. Similarly, you can go on to the ISRO website. Again, there is section of missions, latest missions, etc. And you can refer to those particular sections and you would be able to get the authenticated information from over there. So those are going to be useful resources. Science magazine, science journal is also there, but again, not that much important to read because you're not going to get that much amount of time. But down to earth, again, going to be little important if you have time and energy, and that magazine is going to be important from environment and scientific point of view. But again, not essential. If you have time, you can subscribe to that articles, social media pages, and if you see an interesting article, you can read to that, but not that you must be taking down to earth magazine and reading all the pages one by one. Not at all required or essential. Okay. So these were few things that I was trying to discuss with you all about science and technology. There are few questions that are there, both in the chat box here and on Zoom. So is only current affairs enough for science and technology is what Siddhe is asking. Yes, Siddhe, you can definitely rely more on current affairs, but few of the static portion, as I already discussed, is going to be important. Okay. मराठी मीडियम स्टुडंटसाठी बुक सायन्स अँड टेक्नॉलॉजीसाठी कोणती आहेत? ऍट द मोमेंट आय एम अनअवेअर, मला आत्ता माहिती नाही आहेत मराठी मीडियमच्या स्टुडंटसाठीची सायन्स अँड टेक्नॉलॉजीची चांगली पुस्तकं. पण ही जी सगळी पुस्तकं आता सांगितली एनसीआरटी आणि ती सगळी, तर ती चांगली आहेत. लुसन जीकेचं मराठी ट्रान्सलेशन आहे असं मला कल्पना आहे, पण नेमकं शुअरली माहित नाही. एकदा ते पाहायला लागेल. ते असेल तर ते सुद्धा चांगलं आहे. आणि बाकीचं तुम्हाला तुमच्या स्टेट बोर्डाच्या 11वी-12वीच्या पुस्तकांमधून आणि 6वी-10वीच्या पुस्तकांमधून सुद्धा पुरेसं असणार आहे. 6वी-10वीची पुस्तकं वाचणं आणि डेली करंट अफेअर्स हे सुद्धा पुरेसं असणार आहे मराठी मीडियमच्या स्टुडंटसाठी. ठीक आहे. सयुजा म्हणते 2 वर्ष आहेत अजून अटेम्प्टसाठी, तर आता ती फोकस कशावरती करावं तिने करंट अफेअर्सच्या? तर हे सगळ्यांनाच मी सांगतोय की ज्यांचा अटेम्प्ट 2021 आहे किंवा 22 आहे, तर ओव्हरऑल लक्षात जरी घेतलं की 2021चा अटेम्प्ट असू दे, 22चा अटेम्प्ट असू दे, तर तुम्हाला जनरली करंट अफेअर्सचा ट्रेंड बघितला की 100 पैकी समजा 50 क्वेश्चन्स आहेत. ओव्हरऑल प्रिलिम्स बद्दल बोलतोय मी. ओव्हरऑल प्रिलिम्स 100 पैकी 50 प्रश्न जे आहेत जे करंट अफेअर्सचे असतील, त्या 50चं क्लासिफिकेशन जनरली कसं असतं? तर त्या 50च्या क्लासिफिकेशन मध्ये जवळपास 30 ते 35 प्रश्न असे असतात की जे एका वर्षामध्ये गेल्या करंट अफेअर्स मध्ये महत्वाचे क्वेश्चन्स आहेत, टॉपिक्स आहेत, त्याच्यावरती आलेले असतात. आणि राहिलेले जे 15 ते 20 प्रश्न आहेत ते 1 ते 2 वर्ष आधीचे असतात. तर त्याच्यामुळे जरी तू आता सयुजा प्रिपेरेशन नसशील करत या वर्षीच्या अटेम्प्टसाठी येणाऱ्या 2021च्या 22च्या करत असशील, तरी सुद्धा तू आतापासून करंट अफेअर्स वाचणं या 15-20 प्रश्नांसाठी तुला महत्वाचं असणार आहे. तर सगळ्यांनीच लक्षात घ्या. आणि ज्यांनी यावर्षीच आता अभ्यास करणं चालू केलंय त्यांनी या 15-20 क्वेश्चन बद्दल जास्ती टेन्शनही घ्यायची गरज नाही. कारण ज्यावेळेस तुम्ही या 30-35 क्वेश्चनचा अभ्यास करताय, हे 15-20 क्वेश्चन्स असेच येणार आहेत की ज्या एवढे महत्वाचे आहेत की ते परत या वर्षी सुद्धा करंट अफेअर्स मध्ये असतात. सो वाचायला हरकत नाही. पण सयुजा जी 2 वर्षापासून प्रिपेअर करते, त्यांनी आतापासून त्या गोष्टी माहिती असतील तर लक्षात राहायला जास्ती मदत होणार आहे. त्याच्यामुळे तुम्ही आतापासून वाचायला काहीच हरकत नाही. ठीक आहे. सो दीज वर फ्यू क्वेश्चन्स. अजून काही चॅट बॉक्स मध्ये क्वेश्चन आहेत. अजून चांगली पुस्तकं काही मेन्स साठी आहेत का? पियर्सनचं जसं आहे प्रिलिम्स साठी. सो असं सॅडली असं काही खूप चांगलं पुस्तक मेन्स साठी आहे असं नाही. काही जण रवी पी अग्रहरी यांचं एक सायन्स अँड टेक्नॉलॉजी यांचं पुस्तक आहे, एमएची पब्लिकेशनचं. रवी पी अग्रहरी यांचं एमएची पब्लिकेशनचं, मॅग्रो हिल एज्युकेशन यांचं. सो ते पुस्तक सुद्धा काही जण वाचू शकतात. बट अगेन ज्यांचं सायन्स बॅकग्राऊंड आहे त्यांनी ते वाचावंच का? तर ते वाचायलाच पाहिजे असं नाहीये नक्कीच. ठीक आहे. सो यू कॅन स्किप दॅट पार्ट ॲज वेल. पण ज्यांना बेसिक काहीच माहित नाहीये त्यांनी अशा प्रकारचं पुस्तक वाचू शकता. मला काही अजून प्रश्न आहेत इकडे याच्यामध्ये चॅटबॉक्स मध्ये युट्यूबच्या, पण आता ते काही खूप रिलेव्हंट आहेत या डिस्कशनच्या, असे नाही आहेत आताचे प्रश्न. शिवानीचा प्रश्न झालाय आता डील करून मेनचा. सयुजाचा प्रश्न आहे, त्याच्या नोट्स करायच्या का त्या करंट अफेअर्सच्या? येस सयुजा, तर त्या करंट अफेअर्सच्या सुद्धा नोट्स कराव्या लागतील काही प्रमाणामध्ये, जास्ती डिटेलमध्ये नाही. जर का काही वेगळं असं असेल की जे करंट अफेअर्सच्या कंपायलेशन मध्ये नोट्स मध्ये आलेलं नसेल तरच ते केलं तर चालेल. पण काही जे महत्वाचे टॉपिक जे तुम्हाला लक्षात राहत नाही त्याच्या स्वतःच्या शॉर्ट नोट्स बनवल्या तर त्याचा फायदा होणारच आहे. सो अशा प्रकारे आपण बरेचसे क्वेश्चन्स डील केलेत. काही जणांना रेज हँड केलाय. विघ्नेश, मी तुला अनम्यूट करतोय, तुला काही डाऊट असेल तर विचारू शकतोस विघ्नेश. विघ्नेश, ओव्हर टू यू. विघ्नेश, काही क्वेश्चन आहे तुला? ठीक आहे. अविनाश विचारतोय SRB. मला कळलं नाही SRB तुला काय म्हणायचंय ते. ठीक आहे. समीर विचारतोय सायन्स अँड टेक्नॉलॉजीवर किती प्रश्न विचारले जातात? समीर, आपण सुरुवातीलाच या प्रश्नाचं उत्तर दिलंय. जर का तू व्हिडिओ मिस केला असेल तर युट्यूबवरती जाऊन परत पाहू शकतोस, त्याच्यावर तुला मिळेल. प्रणव, रायटिंग फॉर्मॅट ऑफ द आन्सर्स कसं असलं पाहिजे? तर सायन्स अँड टेक्नॉलॉजीचं जे आन्सर रायटिंग आहे ते मोस्टली टू द पॉइंट सबहेडिंग या फॉर्मॅटमध्ये असणं जास्ती चांगलं असणार आहे. त्याचा तुम्हाला जास्ती उपयोग होईल. हर्षदा, तुलाही काहीतरी प्रश्न विचारायचा आहे, मी तुला अनम्यूट करतोय.
दादा, मेन्सचा आन्सर म्हणजे सायन्स अँड टेक्नॉलॉजी मध्ये मेन्सच्या आन्सर रायटिंग बद्दल थोडंसं सांगशील का? म्हणजे कशी उत्तर आहे त्याची सायन्स अँड टेक्ची लिहायची?
सो आता मी जसं सांगत होतो कोणाच्या प्रश्नावरती, प्रणवच्या प्रश्नावरती. सो सायन्स अँड टेक्नॉलॉजीचं जेव्हा आन्सर रायटिंग करतो तेव्हा आपल्याला फॅक्ट्स आणि डेटा काही प्रमाणामध्ये माहिती असणं गरजेचं आहे. आणि त्याचा आन्सर आपल्याला बेसिकली लिहिताना वेगवेगळे जे फॉर्मॅट असतात मेन्स आन्सर रायटिंगचे, तर कधी आपण सब टॉपिक फॉर्मॅटमध्ये लिहितो, कधी 1, 2, 3, 4 अशा पॉईंट फॉर्मॅटमध्ये लिहितो, कधी कधी आपण पॅराग्राफ फॉर्मॅटमध्ये लिहितो. तर याच्यासाठी हेडिंग, सब हेडिंग आणि पॉईंट फॉर्मॅट वुड बी बेटर रादर दॅन एक्सप्लेनिंग इट इन टू द पॅराग्राफ फॉर्मॅट. पॅराग्राफ फॉर्मॅट आपल्याला कुठे वापरायचा आहे? तर हिस्ट्रीचे काही टॉपिक्स असतील तिथे पॅराग्राफ फॉर्मॅट वापरू शकता. GS पुढच्या टॉपिक्समध्ये बऱ्याच ठिकाणी पॅराग्राफ फॉर्मॅट वापरावा लागणार आहे. पण इकॉनॉमी असेल, सायन्स अँड टेक असेल, ऍग्रिकल्चर असेल, या ठिकाणी तुम्हाला बऱ्याचदा पॉईंट फॉर्मॅट, सबहेडिंग फॉर्मॅटच वापरावा लागणार आहे. ठीक आहे. अजून कोणी काही प्रश्न विचारते? अविनाश विचारतोय स्टँडर्ड रेफरन्स बुक नाही का? तर याचं स्टँडर्ड रेफरन्स बुक तसं डायरेक्टली नाहीये कोणतं. मी जसं मगाशी सांगितलं रवी पी अग्रहरी काही जण वापरतात, बट अगेन माझ्या मते काही खूप उपयोगाचं आहे असं नाहीये. ज्यांना बेसिक क्लिअर नाहीये ते वाचू शकतात, बट त्याचा जो इनपुट टू आउटपुट रेशो आहे की तुम्ही किती वाचताय त्यातून किती प्रश्न येतात, तो माझ्या मते तेवढे एफर्ट्स देण्या एवढा ते पुस्तक तेवढं महत्वाचं नाही आहे. ठीक आहे. आय थिंक बऱ्यापैकी सगळे क्वेश्चन्स डील झालेले आहेत. अजून कोणाला काही प्रश्न असतील तर पुढच्या 1 मिनिटात विचारा, नाही तर मग आज आपण थांबूयात. ठीक आहे. ठीक आहे. सो नो क्वेश्चन्स ऍट द मोमेंट इज आय फील. सो आपण आता थांबूयात आणि उद्या परवा पण तुमची पुढची सत्र आहेत, पुढचे 2-3 दिवस अजून 22 की 23 तारखेपर्यंत स्ट्रॅटेजी वर्कशॉपची. तर सगळ्यांनी ती नक्कीच अटेंड करा. अँड आय विश यू ऑल द बेस्ट. कोणाला काही डाऊट असेल तर तुम्ही मला नंतर सुद्धा विचारू शकता. थँक्यू एव्हरीवन. थँक्यू.